Number 9. Square root of 2 times the square root of 8 is the square root of 16. If you're wondering why the recording stopped at number 8, I accidentally hit recording stop. That's the answer. So the square root of 2 times the square root of 12 is 24. Square root of 16 is just 4 minus square root of 24 turns into 4 and 6. So that'd be 2 square root of 6, and that'd be done. Number 10, do not think that you're multiplying these two negatives. You're supposed to concentrate on this and say, hey, I can take an I out of this. So that would be I square root of 16, which is the same thing as 4I times negative 3, giving us negative 12I. Number 11, very similar. First thing you have to do, take the I out. But you're not quite done because 25 will go into that 5 times. So this would turn into 5I square root of 5. This is just two-stepper. 4 times 6 is 24. I times I is I squared, which is the same thing as 24 times negative 1, which is negative 24. Number 13, 2I square root of 6 times 2I square root of 6. That's what this means to do. 2 times 2 is 4. I times I is I squared. Square root of 6 square root of 6 is 6. So really 6 times 4 is 24. I squared is just negative 1. So this is just negative 24. Number 14, get the I out of the denominator. It's the same thing as getting a radical out of the basement. I times I is I squared, which is just negative 1. And then we get negative 3I on the top, which is just the same thing as 3I. Number 15, a couple ways of doing it, but I'm just going to multiply by the square root of a negative 3. And so I'd get the square root of a negative 3 all over, and the roots fly off, negative 3. Now I'll take the I out of this, and that would be my answer. Now your Schoology or your packet might say this, but either one of these is fine. Number 16. This time, I'm going to go ahead and take the I out of this right away. And the reason I'm doing it on this one is I see if I do that, I'm going to be able to reduce these. So what number goes into both 18 and 20? That'd be 2. So this, I'm going to take a 2 out of this, and it's the square root of 9. A 2 out of that, and I get the square root of 10. Now that is just 3, and I get I square root of 10. Now what I'm going to do is get that square root of 10 out of there first. So I get 3 square root of 10 all over 10I. But now I got to get the I out. Yes, I could have done that in one step, but I didn't. So 3I square root of 10. Remember, I times I is I squared, which is just negative 1. Negative 1 times 10 is negative 10. And math seems to prefer the answers with the negative in the numerator. So I'm sure that's what they're looking for. Number 17, don't you dare multiply this times this. It's tempting. You got to treat this like it's its own math problem. Treat this like it's its own math problem. And I'm going to take care of this. I times I, once again, is I squared, which is just negative 1. So I get negative 1 times the square root of 7. Now the square root of 28 turns into the square root of 4 times the square root of 7. Well, the square root of 4 is just 2. And if I multiply these together, the roots fly off. So 2 times 7 times negative 1 is negative 14. Number 18, take the I out. Take the I out. And this is similar to that one, but that was multiplication. This is addition. So this turns into 4 and 7. So all of this, there's an I there. All of this turns into 2I square root of 7. And then we got that. I square root of 7. There's an invisible 1 in front there, so that'd be 3I square root of 7. 19. This is trying to trick you a little bit, but notice that's a plus. A lot of you, when you see parentheses, you think it's a FOIL problem. All this is saying is add. And so really, it's 6 minus 5I plus negative 7 minus 3I. So 6 minus 7 is negative 1. Negative 5I minus 3I is minus 8I. Distribute, distribute. So we get 5I plus 6I squared. This is just 6 times negative 1. So it'd be 5I minus 6. Number 21 is a foo problem. 8 times 8, 64. I times negative I squared, which is just 64 minus a negative 1, which is 64 plus 1, which is 65. This one, because they're not conjugates, we have to FOIL it. So 2 times 4 is 8. Go outside, minus 6I. Inside, negative 20I. Last would be a negative times a negative is positive. 15I squared. Now that I squared is actually a negative 1, which would make this a negative 15. So I'm going to add these together, negative 26I, and then I actually have 8 plus a negative 15, which would give me minus 7. Number 23, the danger is some students will square this and square this and think it's good, but that's not good. You have to square the binomial. And the question is, are these conjugates? No. So 3 times 3 is 9. Outside would be negative 15I. Inside would be negative 15I. Then a negative 5 times a negative 5 is positive 25. And then I times I is I squared, which this is just 25 times negative 1, which is just negative 25. So 9 minus 25 is negative 16. And then negative 15I minus 15I is negative 30I. Number 24, we got to get the radical out of the denominator, and the only way that'll work is to multiply by the conjugate. So we distribute. 36 plus 12I is what we get in the numerator. In the denominator, we can because these are conjugates. So 3 times 3 is 9 minus I squared is actually 9 plus 1, and that's 10. So if we take a 2 out, take a 2 out, take a 2 out, we get 18 plus 6I all over 5. Number 25 says solve, so we're going to subtract 36 from both sides. X squared is negative 36. Bada boom, bada bing, do the right thing. So that would be plus or minus 6I. Number 26 is similar, but we're going to add 4. 25x squared equals 4. Divide by 25. Divide by 25. So I get x squared equals 4 over 25. Bada boom, bada bing, do the right thing. So I get plus or minus 2/5. Number 27. You can't just square this, and square this. You got to isolate the square root first. So you get the square root of 3x plus 4 equals 5. And now we're able to square both sides. So the roof flies off here. 3x plus 4 equals 25. Now we subtract 4, 3x is 21. Divide by 3, divide by 3. We get x is 7. Now, in these problems, you were taught that you've got to double check it because a lot of times these answers won't work. So 7 times 3 is 21. 21 plus 4 is 25. The square root of 25 is 5. 5 plus 1 is 6. So that's winner, winner, chicken dinner. Number 28, subtract 6 from both sides. I'm going to multiply this side by 6, so that cancels. Multiply that by 6. X squared is negative 36. Bada boom, bada bing, do the right thing. And that'll just give us plus or minus 6i. Number 29, we try to factor this, but you can see there's no two factors of negative 2 that add up to negative 5. So we can either complete the square or use quadratic formula. So what I'm going to do is complete the square because that's a 1. You could use this and you'll get the same answer. But I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate completing the square one more time. So we're going to add 2. Oh, no. When that's an odd number, completing the square is a nightmare. So we're going to go ahead and use this. So this is my A, this is my B, that's my C. Forget that we ever talked about that. So negative B would be 5 plus or minus the square root of B squared is 25 minus 4 times A times C. Don't forget the negative. All over 2A, which is 2. So that would be 5 plus or minus. This is 4. Negative 4 times 1 is negative 4 times negative 2 is 8. 8 plus 25 is 33. All over 2. And you're done. Number 30. As you look at it, you should ask yourself, can I divide by 4 just to clean this thing up? And the answer is yes. And if you notice that, then you can say, wait a minute, I can see that I can factor this. So that'd be y plus 2, y plus 2. And so we would look at this and say y could equal negative 2, and there it equals or negative 2. Now your answer sheet just says y equals negative 2, but technically it should be negative 2 dr double root. So I'll just leave it like that. This one, divide by 2, divide by 2. X cubed equals negative 27. Take the cubic root of this side, take the cubic root of this side, and x is negative 3. Number 32 is set up for this. Bada boom, bada bing, do the right thing. So x minus 5 equals plus or minus 6. Add 5, add 5. Oops, plus or minus the square root of 6. So I would get 5 plus or minus the square root of 6. Number 33 gets into this long division stuff. And you notice they're in linear progression. There's my a cubed, there's my a squared, there's my a, and then it's my constant. So what times this is this? 3a. Now I got to multiply. So 6a cubed minus 3a squared plus 3a, and now I'm going to subtract. This minus this is gone. A squared minus a negative 3a squared is actually 4a squared. A minus 3a is negative 2a, and I got to bring that down. You do it again. What times this is this? And that would be 2. Multiply. We get 4a squared minus 2a plus 2. Notice everything matches. So when I subtract it, I'm going to get 0 remainder, meaning that's my answer. 34, we can look at the difference. We can look at the denominator. See, this one, we looked at it, and you can't really tell what would make that a 0, but this one you can. Therefore, we can say, aha, I remember these. Put that, whatever causes this to be 0 in the chipmunk nest, and then you take the coefficients off, and then you do your synthetic division. So that drops beneath the line. This times this is 6. Put it there and add. This times this is negative 3. Put it there and add. This times this is 3. Add. So this represents, remember, you go to the highest power and subtract 1. So now this would be 2x squared minus 1x plus 1. And there's no remainder here, so that would just be my answer. And we will end the recording right there. We'll start off on number 35 on the next recording.